In today's Leeds news, Aaronson release clause, Cresswell on loan in Leeds, Palace eye Summerville, Ayling on Drameh fight and relegation, Carl Darlo latest, and behind the scenes of the new ownership. Hey folks, Joe here on the 26th of July with your Leeds United news. Hope you're all having a great day. Yes, today is Wednesday. Yes, yesterday was Tuesday, not Wednesday, and I just made my week shorter and worse for myself. So thanks to everyone who pointed that out and apologies for that. Just a quick reminder, if you want to win this shirt, you need to subscribe to the channel and like the daily videos. We'll do that draw at the end of the month. And we'll crack on with the news and we'll get into this. And we'll start off with Brendan Aaronson stuff. And although he is on loan at Union Berlin, the Athletic have run a piece yesterday where they basically have said there are other release clauses in Brendan Aaronson's contract, as well as I'd imagine the other players that have gone out on loan. Should Leeds not get promoted to the Premier League, the clauses in the contracts of Aaronson will remain active, which you'd assume then means the loan clauses for the other players that have gone out would remain active as well. It does also state the word clauses as opposed to clause in Aaronson's contract. There is a buying option as well in Brendan Aaronson's contract, but it would need to be activated by hitting the fee that's in there. There's a very interesting piece that we shared the other day that's floating around about why the loans actually might help Leeds, because Leeds don't pay these fees up front. They're all spaced out over 5 years. So getting these wages off the bill actually frees up money for Leeds for right now. They can possibly retain the value of these players should they have good loans. If not, they can sell them on later down the line and that money will come off against the money they're owed at that time. So there's some interesting pieces there, but there is also states that there's a very strong possibility that Aaronson could come back to Leeds next season. I think it'd be very hard for any of the players that have left Leeds to come back and be very welcomed. Aaronson's very young. We'd need to know more details on the circumstances surrounding the exit. Was it Leeds that loaned him out, or was it him that wanted the loan? So I'm sure that'll all come out next year when they start to come back, should we get promoted to the Premier League. And speaking of players that are out on loan, they've come back. Charlie Criswell was speaking to the Yorkshire Evening Post about his loan spell at Millwall and his plans at Leeds United. He talked about the first thing that caught him off guard was the fans and the first team expectation that they have. Playing at underage under 21 level in front of a couple of people at the ground doesn't carry the same, I suppose, pressure that playing in front of a stadium of fans, especially the new den with very aggressive fans there, which would be similar to Elland Road. Elland Road can be a very aggressive stadium as well, depending on how the mood is on any given day. So it's a good preparation for that as well. He did state that he had a shaky start at Millwall, but it was mostly because he was trying too hard and kind of got caught in his own head. But when he started to relax and realized that he had the ability to play this level and got his head sorted, he was able to go and play. He said it was all in his head, and he had a fantastic second half of the season. He's talked about Liam Cooper's influence on him as well, and the advice that he's gotten for Cooper over the years that he's been there. And I said, being back at Leeds, he's got targets as well. He was asked about his contract situation, potential new contract, a little bit tight-lipped on this and said no comment on it. However, he did say this on staying at Leeds: I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say that it's not what I want to do, because that has been my dream ever since I was a little boy. I wanted to play for Leeds United. So fingers crossed that gives a bit more hope that Charlie will stay on. I'm assuming it'll come down to game time as well and being involved in this and wanting to play more regularly. So we have to wait and see what happens there. On the topic of players that could potentially leave the club, according to Mike McGrath of The Telegraph, in a tweet that he sent out yesterday, he is stating that Crystal Palace are keen on the Leeds United and Dutch attacker. In his piece, he basically says that Crystal Palace have a list of targets for the summer, and Criswell Summerville is on that list of targets. However, he does finish by saying that the transfer or any potential move for Summerville would be dependent on Leeds first deciding on whether Summerville is in their plans for this year or not. It's probably unrealistic to think that Leeds will hang on to all of the wide players that they have this year. You've got Dan James, you've got Rutter, you've got Sinisterra, Harrison, Nonto, as well as Summerville as well. There's probably somebody else in there I'm missing as well. So it was a huge amount of competition and probably very unrealistic to see all of them stay, but it would be interesting to see who stays and who goes. But I'd expect at least two of them to move out in some capacity before the season kicks off. We have to wait and see who it is. And moving on to talk about Carl Darlo, and yesterday I managed to shoehorn in the advanced talks piece because I'd finished the video, was editing it when the news came out. So Fabrizio Romano's got some more detail this morning, and he has stated in a tweet that Leeds United and Newcastle have a verbal agreement in place, and that the final details are just being sorted out, but that this is a go, and Carl Darlo should be expected to be a Leeds player by the end of this week or early next week, so the deal is almost done. There is rumours also in the background about Nat Phillips as well as Kamara, not Chris Kamara, the Rangers Kamara, about him potentially coming to Leeds United. It's all gone very quiet in the background there, so we'll have to wait and see what happens there as well. But when it gets very, very quiet, stuff tends to happen. So we'll have to wait and see what happens over the next couple of days. Moving on, talk about players at Leeds and coming back. Drameh and Ayling have a fight on their hands for who gets the number 2 or right back spot for Leeds coming into the coming season. Cody Drameh's had 2 really good seasons in on loan, one at Cardiff where he became player of the year, and the promotion to the Premier League with Luton last year and having a very good season there as well. And Luke Ayling was talking about this, and he said that he expects a fight and he expects competition. He plays for Leeds United and competition is expected and is good for him. He moved on then to talk about last season and said that last year wasn't just one bad season for Leeds. In fact, it had been 18 months, which we all know, but that the players had seen this coming for quite a while. And he said, we can't keep looking back now. We've got to focus going forward. He said improvements have been made, and their biggest regret that they had was not being able to share promotion with the fans in a stadium, and that their plan this season is to rectify that by winning the championship and having the fans in Elland Road to experience that. So, look, Bill's got a lot of work to do this year. He's got it's moving to his 8th year at Leeds United, heading towards testimonial status as well. Cody Drameh breathing down his neck and has started both preseason friendlies so far. So, be interesting to see how they get on there. But you would imagine Drameh is probably the favourite to start the season right back. But we'll see. We'll see. And then moving on to the main story today, and that's the behind the scenes ownership piece that the Daily Mail have ran. Now, regardless of what you think of the Daily Mail, they've been getting some stuff accurate, and there's clearly a link there with information. They announced the takeover initial agreement before anybody else. They had the takeover ratification before anybody else, as well as Daniel Farke's appointment as well. So there's something in that, and I'm not surprised to see them get a behind closed doors look at Elland Road. So there's a bit in this, and we'll get into it. And basically, it starts off by saying that Marathe had done a presentation to staff at Elland Road, and then he opened it up to the floor. And the first voice that was heard from the floor was what was labelled as a long-serving stalwart of Leeds United, shouted up, "You can't change the name of the stadium." At which Marathe smiled, nodded, and said there are no plans to change the name of the stadium. But he did go into more detail on improvements to the ground. We'll get to that in a minute. Currently, Elland Road brings in about £1 million per game. The plan is to get that up to what Spurs bring in, which is £4 million per game. We heard Radrizzani talk an awful lot about this without any details actually being put forward. We've now got some details from the 49ers and what they're doing with this. And they say plans are currently underway to expand the stadium to a 55,000-seater stadium. I say seater, but there's probably going to be safe standing involved in that as well. It said it will have improved corporate offerings as well as a revamped east and north stand, so not just one stand, 2 getting redeveloped there as well. They said planning consultants have started work, designs have been drawn up, and the cost of it will be in and around £200 million. There's no worry about that. They say the investment is there. And in 2014, the 49ers moved their stadium to Levi Stadium, and the man that was tasked with raising £1 billion to complete that is the man that has been tasked with doing the same for Elland Road. Also, the group that did the construction of Levi Stadium as well, which is a fantastic stadium, they've also been tasked with the completion of the work at Elland Road as well. And they've been tasked with, so they've moved their attention away from San Francisco over to West Yorkshire and are now looking at doing the work at Elland Road. We talked about the plans. They've been drawn up. There was a lot of modern design said to be in it, a lot of bowls, this toilet seat looking design that's been floating around modern looking stadiums. The 49ers were very clear to say, no, this is not what they want. And they pointed to Anfield and what Liverpool are doing with the ground there, to keep that rectangular, tight, compact atmosphere. Marathe has said that his most important thing is to retain the raucous Elland Road, and in fact make Elland Road even more raucous with 55,000 people in the stadium. He went on about asset improvements on the Wi-Fi in the stadium. He was a bit more coy on this and said that he doesn't really think he wants to do that because he doesn't want to see phones in hands that can take away from the atmosphere. Leeds and Elland Road particularly is known for when you see a goal being scored, fans celebrating, limbs, but no phones in hands. So I think he's possibly mixing that up a little bit with what's needed in terms of Wi-Fi in the ground. But at the same time, it's great to understand that he understands that the atmosphere is the most important thing there. Talking about then the rest of the ground, and there's 20 acres surrounding Elland Road that has been neglected for quite a long time. That is now also being listed as part of the redevelopment plans, and Pete Lowy's group have been set the task of doing the work on there. Pete Lowy's background and his family's background are the ownership of the Westfield group, which they sold recently. But he'll be tasked with creating that. I'm assuming far more retail outlets going in around Elland Road and more places to eat and drink and that kind of stuff to try and improve the whole atmosphere and experience around the ground on match days. Which will bring in that extra money they're looking for. Asked about, getting to the ground, they've had consultations with the council around public transport up and back from Elland Road from the city. It's not an easy one to get to unless you know the city. There's no trams or underground there, but there are ongoing talks around how they would cater for 55,000 fans every other week at Elland Road. Shirt sales came up as well on this, and Leeds sell about 330,000 shirts every season. Put the Leeds in the top 6 in England in terms of shirt sales. That's Premier League status. And top 6 in that group as well. London and Ireland were referenced as big markets and potential markets, and they're looking at capitalizing on them as well. The relegation was seen as not necessarily 100% negative, because the fee to buy Leeds in the Premier League was 400 million, whereas to buy Leeds in the Championship was 170 million. And what that basically meant is that additional funds could go into these redevelopment projects straight off the bat. On training as well, it was mentioned that the Bielsa style training sessions have come back. We have seen videos of players sleeping on beanbags with double and triple sessions being done. The difference is here, they get a day off after that, but players have been quoted as vomiting after sprinting drills and sessions that they've done. So we're getting back to that super fitness that they had, which is massively important. And that's pretty much it. I had to fly through that because I'm on a limit there and what I can actually upload. So there you go. Yeah, so a lot of exciting stuff there. We want to start seeing players coming in the door before we can get really excited about this, but there are positive moves, and I think all that stuff is far more detailed in the first couple of weeks than we got from Radrizzani for 3 years when he talked about the state improvements. Anyway, folks, that's going to be it from me today. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you tomorrow for more Leeds news. See you then. Bye.